Good morning. Thank you for joining me in beautiful Estes Park, Colorado. And apparently, Rebecca Rico wants to grow a mustache this morning. So, if y'all could just be in prayer with her for that she would grow a mustache. Good morning, Jeff, Xavier, Mustache Rico, Mallory, good morning. Q, good morning. Anyone else watching, good morning. Please let me know you're watching so that I can greet you. Good morning, Miss Amy. No, it has not sold yet. I know you're going to text me in a little bit and ask me, and the answer is no. If you don't know what we're talking about, that's okay. So this morning, Miss Cornelia, good morning. Paul, good morning. I want y'all to share this because we're going to talk about something. If you saw the title, men, don't just turn this off because it will have something to do with you, I promise. But we are talking about healing for the barren womb, and I'll explain how that has to do with everyone here in a little bit. Good morning, Sharon Williams. Good morning, Miss Barbara. And I'll just go ahead and throw this out there now so y'all can be thinking about it the whole time. If you have any questions about healing, or even what we talked about last night, if you weren't here last night and you're like, what did y'all talk about last night? Well, you should have been here. Then you can type your question in the comments and I will get to it today. I think we'll have quite a bit of time for questions, so go ahead and start thinking about them now. So we are going to talk about healing for a barren womb. How does this apply to me if I don't have a womb? Well, I mean, nowadays, right, anyone can give birth, according to Google. But all of us, good morning, Caden, have some things in our life at different times that maybe are not producing fruit, which would be called barren. So that's why even men, this is good for you. Plus, like I said last night, through this healing, through all these healing teachings, especially the deeper we get into it, I'm going to treat you guys as ministers to where all of us, we've proven through all these healings teachings that every believer should have signs following their lives. They should be producing good fruit. Every believer should be laying hands on the sick. So every believer needs an understanding of what all the word says on healing. And this is one of the topics of healing. Good morning, Tao. Good to see you. So here we go. We'll get into it. And like I said, if you have questions on healing, type them in the comments and we'll get to them. All right, Genesis 1:28. Genesis 1:28. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. So God's first command to us was be fruitful and multiply. And in order for that to happen, we cannot have a barren womb. So we know his desire is for us to multiply. All right, let's look at Genesis 18:10 through 14. Good morning, Carol Taylor. And if you actually look at John 15, it tells us that we should be producing more rich and excellent fruit. And like I said, that's why it applies to everyone, because it's not just about children. It's about every area of our life should be producing excellent fruit. But we are specifically speaking, not specifically, but we're speaking about the womb this morning. So let's look at Sarah. Genesis 18:10 through 14. Did I already say that? Yes, thank you. And he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and behold, Sarah your wife shall have a son. Sarah was listening in the tent door which was behind him, and now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Surely I should bear a child, since I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. So a lot of people like to quote that, is anything too hard for the Lord, and don't even realize where it comes from. So let's skip down a few chapters, Genesis 21, 1 through 6. And the Lord visited Sarah, and he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear me will laugh with me. Good morning, Miss Mandy. Good to see you. Skip down a few more chapters. Chapter 25, verse 21. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. Apparently people don't like to produce fruit. Genesis 30, verses 1 through 24. And this really, I don't know. We'll get to that later. Genesis 30, 1 through 24. Now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was aroused against Rachel, and he said, Am I in the place of God, who has withheld you from the fruit of the womb? So she said, Here is my maid Bilhah. Go into her, and she will bear a child on my knees, that I also may have a child by her. Then she gave him Bilhah as her maid, as a wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, God has judged my case, and he has also heard my voice and given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and indeed I have prevailed. So she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took Zilpah as her maid and gave her to Jacob as a wife. And Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, A troop comes. So she called his name Gad. And Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, I am happy, for the daughters will call me blessed. So she called his name Asher. Now Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. And then Rachel said to Leah, Please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? Never seen people fight over mandrakes. But you know, it happens. And Rachel said, Therefore he will lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. So now they're trading their husband for the night for mandrakes. When Jacob, it sounds like a TLC show. Isn't that? Yeah, that's that network, right? When Jacob came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, You must come into me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, God has given me my wages, because I have given my maid to my husband. So she called his name Iskar. Then Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, God has endowed me with a great and good endowment. Now my husband will dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. Afterwards she bore a daughter, called her name Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. All right, so we've already seen 3 wombs opened by the power of God. So let's go to, good, we're ending on it. Judges 13:2 through 25. And remember, if you have any questions on healing, you can pop them in the questions or in the comments at any point, and Miss Mustache Rico will copy them and put them back up, or make sure that I see them. Judges 13:2 through 25. That's your new nickname, Mustache Rico. Now there was a certain man from Zorah, the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, indeed now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and not to eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb. And he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. So the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. He said to me, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, O my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what shall we do for the child who will be born. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. Then the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said to him, look, the man who came to me the other day has just now appeared to me. So Manoah arose and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? He said, I am. Manoah said, now let your words come to pass. What will be the boy's rule of life and his work? So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, of all that I have said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor may she drink wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. All that I commanded her, let her observe. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please let us detain you, and we will prepare a young goat for you. And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you offer a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know he was the angel of the Lord. Excuse me. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name, that when your words come to pass, we may honor you? And the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it up to the rock, upon the rock of the Lord. And he did a wondrous thing while Manoah and his wife looked on. It happened as the flame went up towards heaven from the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell on their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah and his wife, then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. But his wife said to him, if the Lord had desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all these things, nor would he have told us such things at this time. Is this getting your yes? Verse 24, so the woman bore a son and called his name Samson, and the child grew and the Lord blessed him. So there you go. Instance number 4? Yes, 4. All right, Exodus. Morning, Sandy. Exodus 23, verses 20 through 26. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For an angel will go before you and bring you into the Amorites and the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. So listen to this, verse 25. So you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. So that's, if you're believing for children, you haven't been able to have children, that is a scripture you should be confessing over yourself. First Samuel 1, 8 through 20. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? So Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the tabernacle of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul and prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. Then she made a vow, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. And it happened as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli watched her mouth. Now Hannah spoke in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she was drunk. So Eli said to her, How long will you be drunk? Put your wine away from you. But Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor intoxicating drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not consider your maidservant a wicked woman, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief I have spoken until now. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have asked of him. And she said, Let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Verse 19. Then they rose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife. I'll let you figure out what that means. And the Lord remembers her. So it came to pass in the process of time that Hannah conceived and bore a son, and called his name Samuel, because I have asked him from the Lord. All right, 2 Kings 4:8. Good morning, Miss Tanya. These last few are exciting. I like them. 2 Kings 4:8. And remember, if you have any questions about healing, sickness and disease, what we talked about last night, then you can type it in the comments. 2 Kings 4:8 through 7. Now it happened one day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there was a notable woman, and she was persuaded him to eat some food. So it was, as often as she passed by, he would turn in there to eat some food. And she said to her husband, Look now, I know that this is a holy man of God who passes by us regularly. Please let us make a small upper room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table and a chair and a lampstand. So it will be whenever he comes to us, he can turn in there. And it happened one day that he came there and turned into the upper room and lay down there. Then he said to Gehazi, his servant, Call the Shunammite woman. When he called her, she stood before him, and he said to him, Say now to her, Look, you have been concerned for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Do you want me to speak on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army? She answered, I dwell among my own people. So he said, What then is it to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, Actually, she has no son, and her husband is old. So he said, Call her. When he had called her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, About this time next year you shall embrace a son. And she said, No, my lord, man of God, do not lie to your maidservant. But the woman conceived and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elisha had told her. So she was blessed with a son, blessed with the desires of her heart, not even asking for it, but just by serving a man of God. and the Lord found favor on her because of that. Mark 5, 25 through 34. Mark 5, 25 through 34. And this directly doesn't talk about a barren womb, but I have consulted my medical contacts, my medical professionals, if you will, different vessels of medical expertise, and some personal countenance, personal experience. And this falls under the category, and I will explain it. Mark 5, 25 through 34. You can also see this in Matthew. I'll slow down. Mark 5, 25 through 34. You can also see it in Matthew 9, 20 through 22. And in Luke 8, 43 through 48. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, "If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Good morning, Corey. But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see her who had done the thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." So what does that have to do with a barren womb? Well, by a show of emoji hands, how many of you can see me coming to you live from Estes Park, Colorado? Good morning, Crystal. How many of you see me right now? 1, 2. Buckle my shoe. 3. There we go. All it takes is a faith the size of a mustard seed to see me. Yes. Okay, we got 5, 6. Okay. So here, my mom, the reason I asked if you can see me now is because my mom had this similar experience. In 7th grade, she had to go to doctors to figure out what was going on in her body. And they told her in 7th grade that she would never be able to have a child. And she cried out to the Lord and said, "Lord, if you give me a son, I'll give him back to you for your work." And here I am. So that's why this has to do with the barren womb, because it means that her her menstrual cycles were off, therefore most likely pointing to the fact that there was something wrong with the womb. So therefore, this is also a New Testament example of the healing of a barren womb. All right. Isaiah 54. This is a good one. I like this one. Isaiah 54, 1 through 5. And this is why I said it applies to everyone, because this isn't just about the natural. This is about the spiritual aspect as well. So here we have the Lord talking to a woman. And he says, "Sing, O childless woman, you who had never given birth. Break into a loud and joyful song, O Jerusalem, you who have never been in labor. For the desolate woman now has more children than the woman who lives with her husband, says the Lord. Enlarge your house, build an addition, spread out your home, and spare no expense. For you will soon be bursting at the seams. Your descendants will occupy other nations and resettle the ruined cities. Fear not, you will no longer live in shame. Don't be afraid. There is no more disgrace for you. You will no longer remember the shame of your youth and the sorrows of your widowhood. For your Creator will be your husband. The Lord of heaven's army is his name. He is your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of all the earth. And the reason, someone got angry. The reason I like this one, because the word shows us to praise and sing and be joyful before we even see the result. You got to understand, a barren woman in this time was a disgrace. A woman that couldn't even give birth to a son was a disgrace. And here you have the Lord saying, I know you can't get pregnant right now, but rejoice, give praise, give thanks, and prepare for a child. Because faith counts things done before we see it in the natural. I mean, Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And verse 11:11 says, by faith Sarah herself also received strength to conceive seed, and she bore a child when she was past the age. So right now, I just want to pray for those people that have been believing for a child and haven't been able to get pregnant, and then we'll open some things up. Father, I thank you for each and every person under the sound of my voice. I thank you that you've commanded us to be fruitful and multiply, that you desire for us to multiply on the earth. I thank you that you are the Creator. You created the womb. I thank you for supernatural, creative miracles in people's bodies now. I speak to barren wombs and I command you to produce life. I command you to be healed. I thank you for children coming in a year's time in Jesus' name. Miss Kay, pop that picture up. All right, so here you see my wife and I. My beard was a little longer at the time. That was at one of the last fall festivals we did. I think it was about a year before that, someone had come to us and they had been trying to have children for years. And they were not able to conceive, and they knew something was wrong between the couple. And they asked us to come and pray for them. And before we did, we said, well, what do you want? Oh, we want twin girls. We laid hands on it. Wasn't in a service. It was literally in our office. Laid hands on her. My wife laid hands on the womb. And we commanded that life come into the womb. We commanded that just as the word says that the Lord will give us the desires of our hearts, that they would produce twin girls. And there they are, and I think they're about 3 now. So there they are, 2 beautiful twin girls, just as they desired. So be specific. Ask the Lord for what you want. He will give you the desires of your heart. All right. We got time now. I'll open it to any questions. Anyone have any questions? Good morning, Miss Marilyn White. I see a bunch of people just hopped on now, and you missed the teaching, but we are open for questions and answers if anyone has any. Caden wants quadruplets. Just be careful what you ask for, brother. When are we going to Scooters? I mean, I don't know that you can go to Scooters. It's a drive-through. I mean, we could all drive through in a group and then go our separate ways, or sit in our cars and drink Scooters together. Caden wants 4 girls at one time. Caden, you're causing people to stress in the studio. People are starting to twitch. Questions? any questions about the Bible, about how to live life as a Christian, discipleship, praying for the sick, sickness and disease, any question at all. Let's see, this is where we need the Jeopardy music. Miss Amy, I know you're on. I know you always have good questions, so I'm believing in you, Miss Amy. I'll just sit here and drink my water. Anyone in the studio have a question? Mom, I don't think he was serious, but you don't need 4 car seats. You can kind of just buy one of the roller coaster cars and fabricate that into the back seat to where like this whole bar comes down. Four teenagers driving at the same time. They can just have tandem bikes, like tandem cars. Any questions for Caden, apparently? Now is not the time for that, Rebecca. All right, well, I guess y'all got nothing this morning. Guess y'all got it all figured out, which is good. I'll give you a few more seconds. Alrighty, well, that's that. Prayer starts in an hour and a half, so you got plenty of time to get here. Thank you for tuning in this morning. And everyone be praying for Kate. Love you guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's service. You can always rewatch this message on our Facebook and YouTube archives. Download our podcast app to hear other messages like this one. We love you and we hope you have a great week. Follow us on social media at CITC Dallas on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For more information about what's going on in church in the city, visit our website at citcdallas.com.